So if your thoughts are in essence creating a resonance field, an energetic resonance field that's calibrating the monopole, we have to then begin to also explore how to use the power of our mind correctly, because we've been trained to really use our mind to figure things out. And if we're figuring things out, anytime we can't figure things out, which happens pretty frequently because we're limited with our human brains as to how much we can figure out, then we stop imagining and we stop dreaming, or we shut down the energy related to our thinking and we fail to create the highest potential of what our life could be bringing us. So we're going to look at the correct use of the mind, and I'm saying that with air quotes, please know. I know that this process of using the mind is dynamic and it has a learning curve associated with it and requires some training, because the mind needs repetition, consistent repetition over time in order to lock into new ways of really being used correctly. And certainly as we go through the rest of the program, we are going to be exploring in great depth how to train your mind to really explore and create in the world differently than perhaps you've been using it up until this point. To understand the mind, we have to really look at it through the lens of traditional human design and kind of blow up some of the myths that we are taught in traditional human design. Because to a certain degree, the way things are taught don't completely jive with what we know is true from science. So when we look at traditional human design kind of teaches that the name of the game in human design is to get everything that you can to the throat. And certainly that's an aspect that causes us to be attracted to the people we are attracted to, or to the groups of people we are with. We like to be able to get access to the throat with all of the things that are defined in our chart because it helps us express ourselves. But that is not really the source of our creativity. Speaking, of course, initiates action. Doing, of course, is action. And to a certain degree, speaking and doing are kind of associated with the throat center. And again, we'll talk about this more as we go through the program. But it's really not where the creative process initiates. The throat is a byproduct, if you will, of the creative process, an essential player in the creative process, the expressive part of the creative process, but it's not the initiating place. So to understand how we're going to reframe the way we understand the chart, we want to first start about and look at a concept that's called a toroidal field, which I cannot say very easily. So the Earth, when we look at the Earth, because it has a magnetic resonance field, when we measure the magnetic resonance field of the Earth, or how the energy flows in the Earth, it flows in this very interesting pattern of sort of coming up and going around and coming back in. This is not only true of the Earth, but the heart center itself has a magnetic resonance field. You'll see this in the human energy field. This is actually an image taken from HeartMath, which is an incredible organization that does some phenomenal research. If we kind of couch that into a human design perspective, what we see is that our energy field, which is an electromagnetic resonance field, we know this from the monopole, that we are magnetic beings, if you will. If we superimpose this magnetic resonance field over the human design chart, we see that there's an exit, if you will, out of the head center and an entrance at the root. The root center is where we're grounded. The head center is where we dream. And it's in the process of dreaming and imagining that we are sending out energy, if you will. And it's from that sending process that we then program the field in which we're living, the energy field in which we're existing, our reality, to then manifest in accordance to our imaginings, things on the earthly plane that fit the things we're dreaming of or the things we're imagining in. So you have to think about this idea. If we're serving on the leading edge of consciousness, and we are manifestations of the leading edge of consciousness, then we're not just experiencing the leading edge, but we're literally creating on the leading edge. Otherwise, there would be no growth. And our feedback to what we create, in other words, our feedback to what shows up in the world, causes our expansion. We look at something that we created by virtue of our dreaming, and we say, hey, I really like this. I'd like some more of this. How can I have some more of this? Or we look at what we've created in response to our dreaming, and we're like, yeah, this doesn't feel good. This feels stuck or blocked or broken or really not what I had dreamt of at all. And then we start asking or imagining new things, new possibilities. I'm saying asking specifically because when we look at the gates of the head center, the 63, the 61, and the 64, that interface between our soul self and our cosmic self and our personal individual story of who we are right now, that bridge between the personality crystal and the design crystal, these three gates operate through questioning. If you have an open head center and you go out into the world and you're experiencing the inspiration of the world and the people around you, 99% of the time you're probably wondering about things, trying to figure things out because you're under pressure to answer these questions. Let me just gently remind you, and again, we'll talk about this more later, you're not supposed to answer those questions, and don't feel like you're failing if you can't. These questioning energies are designed to support us in imagining other possibilities, other realities, exploring with curiosity and wonder other things that we could be experiencing in the world. And it's from those questionings that we have, from those contemplations and wonderings, that we send energy out of the head center into the quantum field, if you will, and we connect with answers, potential answers, and there are innumerable potential answers that match the vibrational frequency that we're holding in the monopole. You can use the power of questions to heal and remove limiting beliefs and stories. We're going to do this more in depth later, but just some things you can ask if you are playing with these energies. And again, we all have all of the chart. Although if you have this defined in your chart, it means it's a consistent part of your soul curriculum, something you're here to really explore through your own inner experience of yourself. But the following questions are actually really powerful questions that when you just engage in the question and don't worry about figuring out the answer, you can actually start to heal and remove limiting beliefs. So the question of the 63 is this true? The question of the 64 is, what is the story? How do you feel around the situation? The gate 61 says, why? What's the bigger picture around what this experience that I'm having is? Why am I holding on to this? If you are familiar with Byron Katie's The Work, you'll see some very interesting similarities between the questions of the head center and the work, and I do believe that's actually why Byron Katie's work is so incredibly powerful. It taps into our natural ability to question and to use the power of questions to seed potential answers in the quantum field. So we ask questions. We don't figure out the answers. And those questions tweak possibilities, potentials in the quantum field, moving quantum particles, right, in the quantum field. The minute we start to explore through imagining and dreaming those quantum potentials, we're observing them in essence, and we cause those particles then to drop into our physical reality. We experience what drops into that reality, and if we like it, then we ask for more in some way, shape, or form. We dream about more. We dream about expansion. And as I said, if we don't like it, we start dreaming about other possibilities. Here's where this creative process goes wrong for a lot of us. We have been trained pretty intensely for the last while to use the power of intentions to create, affirming and telling the universe what you want. But in reality, if we look at how we're hardwired, we're actually designed to ask, not to tell, not to affirm, not to use intentions, but to explore possibilities through the process of a query, a question, an exploration, a wondering. And from that wondering and the imagination that gets triggered, we then seed new possibilities. So instead of the energy flowing into the head center and down to the throat in this aha kind of a way that I think we're taught to engage with inspiration, we have to remember that we are the inspiration. And it's from allowing ourselves to use the power of our imagination and dreaming, our natural tendency to question everything, that we begin to tweak new potentials, drop new potentials into our physical reality. And then all we have to do is decide, do I like this or not? And if you do, ask for more. And if you don't, ask for something different. And in the meantime, take good care of not only your attention and your questions, but tend to your vibration. Don't let yourself fall into stinking thinking or beat yourself up because you think the thing you're thinking about or dreaming about is impossible. And then, of course, follow your strategy in accordance to what shows up in your physical reality. So some good things to think about. Think about, what are your questions? What questions do you have about creating something different in your life? Something more expansive, more authentic, relating to the true story of who you are. Ask questions and let the answers reveal themselves to you on the physical plane. And keep your questions open-ended. Engage with the world through the lens of curiosity and wonder. You are exploring the possibilities of the universe. You don't have to have the answers, just the questions, and allow yourself to discover the next steps. Pay attention to how the answers feel and follow the ones that feel good. And if you experience something that doesn't, ask a new set of questions. So I'd love for you to think about, explore for yourself some questions you might have, some dreams you might have about your life. And you can format your questions. Here's just some potential formats for your questions if you need help. What would it take for? How can I consistently? What do I need to do in order to create? What's keeping me from? What needs to happen for me to become clear?